everybody. It's Sunday night again. We're back. I hope you've had a really nice week. Today was a beautiful day. Did you get outside at all? I hope so. As you come on, maybe let us know you're here and so we have an idea of if anybody's watching out there. Today, first of all, did you all pour yourself a libation? I was walking in the park this afternoon or this evening, and there was family walked by, and Mom turns to me and says, "It's a whiskey or wine tonight." I said, "Will you be watching?" So I hope you're watching. And wine tonight, a nice chilled Sauvignon Blanc. Cheers, everybody. Here's to surviving another week in the time of COVID. So before I get started, I was thinking maybe you could weigh in either here, or I'll also post a question on the group page. I'm thinking about moving this to 9 p.m. Eastern time. That would make it 8 p.m. Central. I know some of you still have kids to get to bed and stuff. That's why I did 10 here and 9 Central, because I know I have some Central time folks that are watching. So just kind of weigh in. It seems like it's getting dark a little bit earlier, so it's dark by 9 o'clock here now, pretty much. And I gotta tell you, as I sit here and the world just gets quiet and I'm waiting for 10 o'clock to roll around, it's like, okay, I'll make it. I don't know. Now that I'm retired, I kind of think about having dinner at 4 and going to bed at 7. Not really. But so weigh in on that. See what you think. An hour early. I don't know if this time works better. I know a lot of people don't even watch it in the time frame. So let me know what you think. Also, I put on the page about that I started a YouTube channel, and I put some of the stories that I've done here on YouTube, because folks have told me that YouTube is easier to watch than to get on Facebook and watch Facebook Live. So, and some people aren't on Facebook, and so having it on YouTube maybe will help those folks out to do that. I've also had several people tell me that I should turn these stories into a podcast. So I reached out to a friend of mine, Megan Rose, who might be listening tonight, who had a podcast for many years and got some good information to start doing some research. So I think I'm going to be doing that, maybe do like a few in a row. I'm not sure. I'll figure it out. But I'll let you know if it's turning into a podcast, because there are folks who would like to be able to listen while they're working or listen while they're driving. And so there you go. You won't be able to see my candlelit sparkly glasses, but you'll be able to hear my voice, right? So a lot of stuff to talk about. But tonight, I'm going to talk about a plethora of haunted houses here in Cadillac. Now, Cadillac, where I live, was a community that was built from logging. What happened was, we're right at the edge of the Manistee National Forest, and we're in the northwest lower Michigan that was just white pine forest as far as you could see. And so the lumber barons came up this way, lots of lakes, lots of rivers, because they would use the lakes and the rivers to transport the lumber. And then something happened that really helped their business in, 1872, I think? I may be wrong. Anyway, in October, I think it was 1872, the Great Chicago Fire took place. And a huge section of the city of Chicago burned. That same day, the city of Peshtigo in Wisconsin also burned, as did the city of Manistee here in Michigan on that very same day. It was all these cities right around the Great Lakes. I saw a theory once that maybe there were like meteor showers that hit that came all the way through the atmosphere and started those fires, but nothing to determine that as a fact, just like people say, maybe. So anyway, but after those fires, there was a huge need for lumber to rebuild. And so these little communities up here, Cadillac included, became boom towns. And the folks who came up here got rich quick. And in order to show and use their wealth, remember this is the 1870s, they would build these beautiful, opulent Victorian homes. And many of these have survived in both Manistee, those were built after the fire. The ones here were built after the fire as well, because the wealth came from supplying the cities to rebuild. But here in Cadillac, many beautiful Victorian homes. And we have a Courthouse Hill district that is an historic preservation district where these homes, the outside appearance of these homes, have to be preserved in their original state. Like you can't build a great big deck or lop your porch off and throw up solar panels and stuff. They're trying to maintain the flavor of the historic district. But the insides of these homes over the years have been renovated over and over again. There were several periods where having the old inside, the old interiors was so old-fashioned and trying to be modern. And one was in the 50s where woodwork was covered with wall-to-wall carpet and wood floors, and woodwork was painted and cupboards were pulled out and formica tops were put in, and then again, those updates from the 50s through mid-60s went into the 70s, and that, if you survived the 50s and early 60s without having your interior remodeled, as I like to call it, by the time the 70s got there, you were goner. That was a time of urban renewal and the whole thing. We're out with the old, in with the new, and things just got torn apart. The insides of the houses don't look like they did back when they were originally built, except for some of them. And what I found is that now in the 2000s, people have purchased those homes and spent thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to renovate to the original grandeur of those homes. There was a house here that where the fixtures, they had like candle fixtures and gas lamp fixtures that they were all painted over, and when they did their renovations and they stripped all that paint away, they found they had sterling silver fixtures in that home that had 8 layers of lead paint on them, having not survived the remodeling periods in previous decades. But there are some homes that did survive that. And what I found is that there are a couple of reasons that happens. One is that you have someone who lives there and lives a very, very long time and remains in the residence. So you have an old lady who starts as a young woman and stays in that same house all the way past the 70s before passing away and surviving those big remodeling trends. That's one reason. And another reason is you have a resident who did not survive those long years, but who decided to stay and make sure that the integrity of the home was maintained. And that's the case with this one home that belongs to my friend who's sitting next to me here. I'll introduce you in a second. This is a home that has a very dominant dead guy living there. He is, I imagine that anyone who tried to rip things out or paint over things had very difficult nights when they would try to go to sleep, because this guy is extremely present, aware, and he is opinionated. And my friend will tell you how about that, the way that is. So much so that, like, I mean, the first things that got remodeled were the kitchens. People would save the woodwork and the staircases and the fireplaces and the beautiful wood floors and even the built-in cabinetry in dining rooms. But they would remodel those kitchens because you didn't want to cook on, I mean, that kind of stuff. Well, even though in the kitchen there is a refrigerator and a modern stove and the sink area is cleaned up, there's a wall in the kitchen that is adjacent to an outside entry room that is the original woodwork, including the icebox. It has these beautiful cabinets and the icebox, the galvanated steel-lined icebox, so the iceman could come and put the ice in on the outside of the house, and on the interior they would have the ice house. The other thing that survived, see that bathroom downstairs original? Yeah, bathrooms were also updated as soon as possible. And in this home, 2 bathrooms, 2, were never updated. There's a powder room downstairs off one of the parlors that even the original mirror was maintained, and new modern cabinets were never put in. Then upstairs, you have the clawfoot bathtub still has the original bathtub and sink and light fixtures. And this is so unusual. It is rare to find a place like this that did not have an old man or an old lady, usually old ladies because they tend to live longer than old men, that died in their late 90s leaving a place. So different families lived there and didn't change it. Well, some people tried to change it, but they didn't stay long. So I'm going to introduce my friend here. I've known this woman since she was a little girl. She's Rachel's BFF, and she lives here in the house that I'm speaking of here in Cadillac, and that is Jerrilyn. I'm going to slide this over, and maybe if I move back, we could both fit in, because you know me, I like to pipe up on things. All right, here we are.
Hi, guys.
Everybody say hi to Jerrilyn.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Doesn't she look gorgeous? Yeah, I think so too.
So my house is one of my favorite places on the entire planet. I absolutely love everything about it. We moved away from it for a short while, and we ended up finding our way back to it. It just feels like home to me. My very first memory of this house, I grew up going to a babysitter who basically was the woman who raised me. Her name was Judy, and she lived in a house that was about 3 or 4 houses down from this house. And so I remember riding my bike and walking up there and looking in the windows. And the man who lived there, his name is Bill White, and we still talk sometimes on Facebook. I used to play with his granddaughter, who would come during the summers, and we'd play. And outside of my house is actually a cannon from, I think, World War One, from World War One, and it has a plaque outside it and stuff, and it's forever known as the Cannon House. You always say, yep, it's the house on the corner with the cannon, and everybody knows what I'm talking about because everyone knows the house. So the guy who built my house, his name is John Wheeler. He was also the first treasurer of Wexford County, and he was also a lumber guy. And you can tell when you look at this house that every piece of wood was picked by hand. It's the wood floors, the woodwork, everything in the house was hand picked, and you can tell it was picked with love and for entertaining, and obviously to please a woman, which was his wife. It's beautiful. when I grew up and got married, we bought the house across the street, and we lived in the front of the apartment. My husband and I did, and my mom lived in the back. And I started having these dreams. At the time, I didn't know what the dreams meant. I just knew that I was having dreams of the house across the street, and there was. I was raised in a really Christian home and was raised on the book of Revelations and end times and scary things happening in the world. And I would have dreams about this. And I would have dreams that I was hiding people in the basement. And I had no idea what it meant. I had no idea why I'd be hiding people in the basement. And when I finally moved into this house, we moved in, we walked in the house. From the moment that you walked in, you always felt like there was somebody that was questioning you. Why are you here? What's your intentions? What are you doing? And it was very, like almost like you had to answer to somebody. And at first, I was like, I don't know what this means. I don't know why. I'm not sure what is going on here. I knew that there was obviously some sort of presence. And we found out that when you walk downstairs, that my house actually has tunnels in it. And when you go downstairs, you walk down the stairs, and you look to your left, and there is a tunnel that goes in about 9 feet. We found out years later that this tunnel actually leads to the courthouse, because the guy who built it was the first treasurer. And when he was in the war, he was released from service because of heat stroke, and he didn't like going outside. So he built himself a tunnel that leads to the courthouse. And then also we hear rumored that you can actually go down to the tunnels that are downtown underneath the streets of Cadillac. So if any of you guys, that's probably a really fun story too, all the tunnels in Cadillac. There's lots of them.
Yeah, there are.
So I guess my first experience, which actually involves TI, when we first moved in, my husband, by the way, does not believe in ghosts at all. Like, not even a little bit. He thinks I'm crazy. He has no feelings at all of spirits. And I'm the opposite. I can see him and feel him just about everywhere I go. And so when we first got in this house, and I'm moving in, and I have all these people in the house, and we're unpacking, and the basement door keeps opening. And I was like, okay, this is weird. And I go and I shut the basement door, and I go do my thing, and I'm unpacking or whatever, and I walk back by the door, and the door's open again. And I'm like, what? Okay, Ricky, what are you doing? Like, what? Will you shut the door? At the time, we had Avery, my oldest son, and then we had Landon, and Landon was crawling. He was 9 months old. And so I was like, Rick, you can't leave this door open. If Landon goes by these stairs, he's gonna fall down the stairs. And the stairs to the basement are really steep, and the hallway is like just about narrow enough for you to walk down it. And little spooky, I'll have to tell you. And he's like, I didn't open the door. I don't know what you're talking about. It wasn't me. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. Like, I know he's probably just trying to, trick me or scare me or something. And so I would shut the door, and I'd walk away, and sure enough, the door would open, and it'd be open again.
Did it have a little hook lock on it too?
No, I bought a hook.
Oh, okay.
So the next day was like, well, this can't keep happening, because I don't want Landon to fall down the stairs. So I sent Ricky to the store, and I bought I have respect for old houses. I love them. I didn't want to do anything that would damage the door, so I didn't want to like buy a lock or, like put drill a hole and build, do a giant lock on it. So I just bought one of the ones that you kind of screw in and it latches over. And so Ricky put that in, and seriously, maybe an hour later, it was unlatched and opened again. And so I was like, Ricky, come on, did you bring something downstairs again? He's like, no, I swear I didn't do it. It was not me. And I was like, okay, well, obviously something's going on. So at that time, I knew I was feeling some weirdness in the house. I figured there was something going on. And so I called T.I. and I explained, I was like, I don't know what's going on in this house. I'm pretty sure it's haunted. I know that I feel something. I haven't seen anything yet, but this keeps happening to my door.
I love how she says yet.
Yes, I knew it was coming. And so the next morning, T.I. calls me and she says, hey, I had to tell you, I just had a dream about your house and I need to tell you about it. And I was like, okay. And she said, I think there's something wrong in your basement. She's like, I don't really know what it is. I think maybe something to do with your furnace or something. There's some kind of issues. Make sure you have smoke detectors down there. Make sure you know that the furnace is okay. I think that's why the door keeps opening. And so I instantly was like, okay, I'm having someone come in. I'm going to have somebody check it out and, come in and see what's going on. So we called a furnace guy, and he came in and to inspect it. And sure enough, the top of the furnace where there's the filters and the stuff that keeps the gases and stuff from going into the house.
Carbon monoxide.
The carbon monoxide piece that was to protect it was rusted through, and it was leaking carbon monoxide into the house. So we fixed it, and the door hasn't done it since. We've not once had the door open since then. So we know John, that's what he does. He, number one, wants to take care of the house. Number two, he wants to make sure that everybody around knows that it's his house. And the first time we lived there, he did everything he could to make it known to me that it was his house and we were just living there, and that as long as we minded our P's and Q's, that he would allow us to stay there. This time, it's completely different. When we moved back, I feel like he was happy to see us back. So that's kind of more into the story, but
Yeah.
but I remember when I first started moving in the house, I would be asleep or getting ready to go to sleep. The first time that I felt it happen, I was a new mom. I had a 9-month-old baby, and I was exhausted. I was nursing him, trying to put him to sleep, and I was laying there, and I hadn't cleaned the kitchen up. I still had dirty dishes on the sink, and I hadn't put my food away yet, and I'm laying there, and I felt like someone was watching me, and I was kind of leaned like this because I had Landon was sleeping in the bed with me, and I felt someone just kind of do this as I was falling asleep, and I was like, what is that? And I looked around because I thought maybe it was Avery, or I thought maybe Ricky was home from work. At the time, my husband was working overnight, so it was just me and the kids in the house. And I was like, that's really weird. And I, tried to go back to sleep. And a few minutes later, when you walk down my stairs, you walk down it like this, and then it curves this way. And then at the bottom of the stairs is this beautiful door with windows on the side of it, these lead glass windows, and really beautiful woodwork, all original to the house, and very sturdy. And I heard the door open, and then it makes a sound when it opens because it's old, and it creaks, and it goes and slammed into the register. And I was like, what in the world was that? And I went downstairs, and of course there's nobody there, there's no lights on, but my door had swung and slammed open. And I was like, oh, that's so weird. And I was kind of a little panicky, but I was okay. And I was like, okay, well, I'm up. I might as well get up and do my dishes and clean the kitchen up. The baby's asleep. And from that night on, every single time my dishes weren't done, John would wake me up. He'd wake me up by either tapping me on the shoulder. He did the door trick several times to me. He would...
Asshole.
Yeah, for real. He would open the door. He would wake me up. Sometimes he'd turn lights on. The light trick wasn't normal for him. His go-to was hovering over top of me. You could feel him like standing over top of you. But he also did stuff like, if the door was left unlocked, he would open that door and it would slam shut, or it'd slam open and hit the register, and I would be like, all right, my dishes are done, John, like what's the deal? And then I'd go downstairs and realize, oh, I forgot to lock the door. So he would do stuff where he wanted to make sure the house was being taken care of, but he would also do stuff where he wanted to make sure that we were safe and being taken care of, which was kind of cool. Like, you could tell that he was kind of starting to like us a little, I guess.
Yeah, that was obvious to
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
I loved the history of the house, so I found out everything I could about it, and I think that maybe that made him feel comfortable that I was in the house, is because he knew that I loved the history of the house. When we moved in there, I had a cheerleader on my team who was the niece of the person who lived there when I was growing up. It was Bill's niece. And she told me that some of the ghost stories from when he was there, and when they were remodeling the house, which John does not like when you do anything to the house, they would wake up in the middle of the night, and the downstairs bathroom that T.I. told you about earlier that hasn't had any changes to it, that toilet paper would be taken and strung throughout the house. And the way the house is you can walk in a circle around all the rooms are connected by doors, and you can walk in that circle. And John would take that toilet paper and he would wrap it around the entire house, and they'd come out and they would have their toilet paper out in their bathroom and just all over the house everywhere. So definitely why my house was untouched.
Right. People, if they started doing something, he'd make sure they stopped.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And then we actually have four ghosts in the house that are our house ghosts. And John goes anywhere he wants. He goes upstairs and he goes downstairs. You can tell it's him because he's a lot more aggressive and he's a lot stronger. You can tell the masculine energy. And then the women pretty much stay upstairs. There is I've seen two women, and I felt a third. We believe that the third is the nanny, and she lives in the back bedroom. And then there the two moms that we feel in there. I believe the first one's name is Georgina, and she is actually John's first wife. And Georgina moved with John to Cadillac when he was opening the lumber mills, and when he was the treasurer, and she actually passed away in childbirth, leaving behind two children, two boys. And the second wife, who is the ghost that you feel most of all up in the upstairs, her name is Ella. I believe her name is actually Ellen, but she goes by Ella. And she
Ellen, that's what I said.
Yeah, Ellen.
Yeah.
Yeah, her name was Ellen. I think it's Ellen May, I think is what her name was, and her last name was Fox. And when she married John, she took over the role of the kids. I think the youngest was just a baby, and I think the oldest was 2 or 3. we know all this from history books. John Wheeler is also the person who wrote the history of Wexford County, which you can actually find in the historical museum. So I'm pretty sure that the stuff that's written is accurate because it was written by him. But Ella is the one who raised his first wife's children. So she's
Did
the
Ella
one.
have any children?
I don't believe so.
Oh, because
I think
saw
she
a
might
daughter.
have. I think she might have, and I think maybe it passed away. I think maybe it died at childbirth, or I don't know for sure. Because I do know that I saw Ella once. Usually, I don't see Ella like face to face. I see her either out of the corner of my eye. I hear her a lot, but I saw her one time in the clawfoot bathroom, and my bathroom is my favorite part of my entire house, like my favorite. When we got the keys the second time, we weren't even moved in yet. I picked the keys up from the realtor. I had cleaning supplies and bath stuff packed, and Gillian and I went in the house. I walked upstairs and cleaned the bathroom and took a bath. Like, that's how much I love it. But so I had when I saw her was the first time we were living there. It was probably about 8 or 9 years ago, I'd say. And I had Landon with me, and I had him in the bathtub with me, and we got out of the bathtub, and I had a towel wrapped around him, and I was kind of holding him like this, and I stood up, and the mirror that is above the sink is actually original to the house as well. It's one of the old like lead medicine cabinets, and so when you grab it, sometimes it kind of sticks, and so I grabbed it and I pulled it, and when I pulled it, it kind of like shuddered and like kind of shook for a minute, and when it shook, I got a flash of her. I saw her in the mirror, and she was wearing a nightgown with like the nightgown came up and like ruffled right here, and she had a nightcap on, and she was holding a baby. And so Landon's face turned into another child's face, and my face turned into her face. And it was just a split second, just long enough for me to see her and to say, I can see you. I recognize that you lived and your life was here. And then that was the only time I actually really saw her. But she is the mother. She watches, and she checks on, and she is the presence upstairs that you feel a lot. And usually like springtime, summertime, you don't see her or feel her very often. She gets really strong in the fall. She passed away in October, and so did John. And October and November in my house is the time where you basically can see them as if they were there. Like
the busy season.
Yeah, it's the busy season. But she makes her rounds every night, usually between 11:15, 11:30. She'll walk down the hall, and the way my upstairs is shaped, when you walk up the stairs, you can turn this way, and it will lead you down the hall, and that will lead you to there's a bathroom at the end of the hall. Over here is the clawfoot tub, and then there's the back bedroom, which is where we feel the nanny a lot. And then if you go this way, there is the master room, which is my room now, with the fireplace in it. And then if you go back down, there is a room that actually used to be 2 rooms, that I believe when Bill moved in, he made it into 1 room. We have since made it back into 2 rooms.
Restoring it back to its original.
Yeah, so we restored. We put it back in there. But you'll hear her right outside of my bedroom, which it was her bedroom. Mm-hmm. You hear her. She turns and she walks down, and she walks back down this way. She goes in every single room, goes in that room, goes in that room, comes back down and walks down the stairs, and then she disappears. So my stairs go down and then curve. She disappears at that curve. And it's funny because when we lived there, when Landon and Avery were a baby, we had a dog named Annabelle. And Annabelle, we always call the nanny because she basically followed behind the kids and laid down at your feet, and she was a really, really good girl. And she would get up and she'd walk the hallways with Ella every night. It's time to get up. And she gets up and goes in each of the room and kind of followed her and then came back down and laid down with us. And Ricky always used that as the excuse, saying that he thought that's why I thought there's people in the hallway. And I'm like, no. Nope, there's actually someone there. I do have a funny story, though.
I'll tell that one.
When I was already super sensitive of this, and I had a couple of babysitters who were cheerleaders. One is her name is Cody, and then my other babysitter's
You
name
have to
is
know that
Ashley.
Jerrilyn is a
cheerleading coach. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
so.
I'm a cheerleading coach.
She just likes cheerleaders.
Yeah, I just like cheerleaders, random.
Because of those horror movies, she gets cheerleaders in her house because of those cheerleader horror movies.
Oh, yes. So they were a couple of my girls, and they were really good girls, and they loved my kids. They were so good to my kids, but they were terrified of my house. And so they have a few ghost stories of their own from my house from when they were babysitting. But Cody had been watching my kids the night before, and I came home and she was totally frantic and scared, and she said that she had heard somebody upstairs, and so I was kind of already spooked out a little bit. And the next night I had put the kids to sleep, and they were in my bed because I co-slept with my kids when they were younger, and I had my monitor on, and they had all went to sleep, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go downstairs. I am going to have some peace and quiet for a minute. I'm going to go down and just kind of relax. So I went downstairs, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear somebody in the monitor, and I hear a baby start crying, and I'm like, oh man, Landon's up. All right, I got to go. And I start getting up, and I hear somebody walk in the room, and they're like, oh baby, it's okay, sweetheart, Mama's here. And I'm like, oh no, she did not. She did not just call my baby her baby. And started singing to Landon. And I was like, what the? And I'm like, that is it. And so I get up to go upstairs, and I look in the room, and of course there's nobody there, and it's quiet, and Landon's asleep. And then all of a sudden I hear him talking, and it was the monitor. I had picked up the monitor from across the street.
Oh, thank God.
And it was the person across the street.
You were ready to go up and reclaim
Yeah, I
your
was ready,
child from
all
the
right,
ghost.
that's it. That is it. We're having a conversation right now.
Oh, man. So, multiple times I've, at Jerrilyn's house, I've sensed many things there. At one point, there was somebody that was, when Avery moved his room to the back room,
Mm-hmm.
somebody was bugging him. He was annoyed from early childhood. I think he talked about the scary man.
Yeah, he called him the scary man.
Scary man.
One of the things John used to do is he would go to the window, and the kids' beds were in between the windows upstairs in the one room, and he would push the curtains so the curtains would go over their face. Wouldn't actually suffocate them or be on top of them, but it would
Just to annoy him.
yeah, just scare them. Yep.
Yeah. So he had moved. Avery was a little bit older, and he moved to his own room in the back of the house, which was the nanny's room, and there were things going on there, and Jerrilyn knows how to put up protections and set up energetic safe spaces for her kids, but this kept going on in Avery's room. And wasn't he putting things up in his closet? There was something with his closet. He was hiding things up in his closet. I don't remember.
I'm not sure.
But anyway, I went over there and hung out with the kids downstairs a little bit, and when you grow up around Amma, T.I., and Jerrilyn, weird things are just normal. So it was I was downstairs with the kids for a little while, and then I just went up to sit alone in that room upstairs. Because
Avery was like, what's T.I. doing? She's having a conversation with the scary man. He's like, all right.
yeah, so I did. So I sat up there and just with nothing else, no other interruptions. And I tried to let whoever was there, if there was something they needed, to let them know I was available for that. And when it became clear to me that there was nothing they needed, that it was just their presence, I laid down the law, this whole grandmother energy. There's something about that that you talk about the mother lion, but I'll tell you, grandmother Makwa, grandmother bear, is a force to be reckoned with. And I feel Jerrilyn feels like one of my own children, and so of course her children feel like that to me. And I just kind of laid down the law, and not in a challenging way, because this guy was not somebody to be challenged.
Yeah.
But what I said to him was, you are so lucky to have this family here. And you're so lucky to have Jerrilyn here, who you respect and who you care about. And if you keep scaring these children, they won't stay here. Mm-hmm. And the next people who come in are not likely to, maybe they won't even know you're here, but they're not likely to be the kind of people like this family that you want to have here. So knock it off. Leave the children alone. Tell Jerrilyn whatever you want. You don't scare her. Mm-hmm. But don't scare the children. And did things change?
Yeah, I feel like
closed up. There was a.
I feel like it calmed down a little bit.
There was like into the upper attic.
Yeah.
There was an opening in the closet, and I saw that as being like something coming through there. Or going into there and coming back and forth through there. So
which we just had to do again.
You had to reseal it.
You and I did. You and Stephanie did. Yeah.
So we sealed that up, and things settled down. And that was the first time you lived there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then the second time we did it again.
Yep.
Bill
Tell
actually
about what happened after you moved out.
Yeah, Bill just told me that he actually stuck his hand up in that crawl space that Tia was just talking about, and found some really old pictures that were up in there of the people who had lived in the house, and told me that I should get up there and check and see more. It's like blown with insulation and stuff now, so that we would need some sort of like suit and breathing stuff, I think, to be able to do it. But it's one of my goals. I want to get up there and see if I can find some pictures and some fun things. I've had a reoccurring dream of a rocking horse being up there. So I'm really interested to see if I can see a rocking horse, if there's a rocking horse up there. But yeah, so when we moved out,
hey, you could buy hazmat suits now because of the pandemic.
Know, right? I actually have some
masks and
masks
N95
and
masks,
yeah.
and gloves and
I could totally
goggles.
do it.
You could totally do it.
For real.
Let me know when you're going up there.
We'd have to reseal it again.
Yeah.
So when we moved away, it broke my heart to move away, because I loved everything about this house. It's so beautiful, and I love decorating it for the holidays, and I love hosting stuff there. So when I moved away, I just kept feeling that tug at my heart that I needed to be back there. And my mom, of course, lived across the street still in the house that we had bought when we got married. So I would drive by and, go drop the kids off or pick the kids up or whatever, and still see my house sitting there with somebody else living in it. And there was somebody who moved into it who was planning on buying it, and she was on my Facebook page. She was a former athlete of mine. She was a cheerleader of mine, and she started posting pictures of the house and what she was doing to it. And she started painting it and painting the woodwork and put carpet over the hardwood floors. Just so much devastation to the house. she never said that she felt haunted, but I can't imagine that it was peaceful there for her
She
anymore.
had mentioned that to me.
Oh, she did?
Yeah, she reached out to me once, and I said, "What's going on?" And she told me that it was just very uncomfortable. And I said, "What are you doing to the house?"
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
But so I kind of saw my house kind of destroyed, and she wanted to modernize it. She thought she was improving it, but you know, don't buy a historical house if you don't want a
if
historical
you want an open
house.
floor plan.
Yeah. I mean, the house was built in 1876, and it still had the original woodwork. It still had all of the original stuff in it. So it lasted that many years until then. So when she moved out, and the house was up available, I told my husband, I'm like, oh, I'm going to move back in. We're going to figure out a way. I'm going to call the owners and we're going to get back in. And Ricky's like, no, I don't want anything to do with that house. She painted the woodwork and she destroyed it. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm like, I feel like this is where we're supposed to be. And so finally he agreed to it, and we end up coming back and moving back in. So when we moved back in, I said when we came in, I went upstairs and took a bath, and I was downstairs and instantly started cleaning, started removing paint. We redid the wood floors. We took all the paint off, and which was hours and hours and hours and hours of work. And I think I was there, I think it was the second night I was there working. I wasn't staying the night yet, but I was still working in the house, and it was kind of dark. And I kept hearing the footprints behind me, footsteps. And you could, in the kitchen, you can kind of, you can hear a couple of the wood pieces underneath the flooring creak if someone walks on them. And so I would look behind me, and of course there was nobody there. And I felt John come up behind me and just like it just, you could tell he was like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God you're back. And so, and it was totally different. Like he, from that moment on, I think he kind of had a conversation with the rest of the residents to not scare my kids, and to kind of,
Or Ricky,
yeah, like just to kind of leave us alone. And during the fall months, it's still a little uncomfortable, but it's not as scary. It's not scary really anymore. My daughter Gillian is, I believe, sensitive, and I think that she for sure sees or feels energies and spirits. And she has made a couple comments about the lady upstairs. So I know that she's still there. I haven't seen her lately though.
well, what about when she gets up at night to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, so Gillian right now, she, well, was it about 2 weeks ago, I guess, she had told me that she came in, she goes, I have to go potty, but I can't go down the hall. Will you come with me? And I said, what do you mean you can't go down the hall? And she said, well, I'll get in trouble if I get out of bed. And I said, no, you won't get in trouble. Go ahead and go potty, honey. And she's like, but the old lady, the lady in the hallway tells me to go back to bed, to get back in my bed. And I was like, okay, sweet. And then over the winter time, she told me that when she would go in the bathroom, that the lady in the bathroom would sing to her while she went to the bathroom. And I think maybe it might have been because she was scared and she was trying to get her so that she wasn't scared anymore. But yeah.
But what was happening in her room when Stephanie and I went over? What was going on there? She was
just scared.
She was scared in her room.
Oh, no. You know what happened is, because we don't have a light in there right now, because when we separated the two rooms again, the light switch in Gillian's room is actually the light in the boys' room. So we have to get the wiring fixed. And what happened is Gillian went in her room, and so when you walk in her room, you had to walk all the way across the room to get the light to turn it on. And so she walked in the room and went to go run across the room to turn the light on, and the door slammed behind her. And I heard Gillian like scream bloody murder. I was downstairs, and she just screamed and screamed, and she came, and I could hear her pounding on the door, and she couldn't get the door. She couldn't open the door.
Oh,
and then
geez.
finally the door opened, and she was able to get out. I don't know that was the mom, though. I'm not sure that we ever really found out who that was, because that's not the mom's character to scare. And I don't think John would have done that either.
And to slam the door like that.
Yeah, that's never happened. That was scary. Gillian was terrified.
But she is, as Jerrilyn said, she's very tuned in. You know, that's something that, with myself growing up in a haunted house, all of those, we all have those abilities when we're born, when we're little. Mm-hmm. And when, just like with anything else, you know, every child is born capable of producing every single sound in any human language worldwide. And what happens at the babbling stage is children eliminate the sounds that they don't hear in their environment. And I think that, I don't believe because it's not, I'm still trying to figure it out, but I think that what we are all born with an ability to see beyond the veil, to know what spirit things are around us. This would be a survival thing back from the Neolithic and prior. If you're able to know what interdimensional entities, or that there are interdimensional entities around you, this is a survival thing. If you don't, you know, you could anyway. But so I think we are all born with that, and when it's no longer in the vocabulary around you, that those pathways are shut off. So, for example, after a certain age, some of the tonal languages or click languages are very difficult for Western language, for Romantic language speakers, because at that critical language development stage, they didn't hear it in their environment. And so trying to produce those and actually hear those becomes more difficult as they get older. I think this is what it is with spirit awareness. For me, I grew up in a very haunted house. Through that age, you know, until I was, you know, older, I was living in a place where my awareness of these things was never denied. It was denied. It's your imagination kind of stuff. But I was still hearing it. I was still seeing it. And I think that with like Gillian, she is growing up in a house of spirits. And her mother is also a very much an energetic being, you know, very much aware of her ability to manage and to control energy in and around her, and is aware of things beyond what everybody else sees. So Gillian is going to be growing up as a spirit medium as well.
It's funny, Gillian actually she told me, probably about a month ago, she told me that she had a dream about the basement. I don't know if I told you this story or not, but so in our basement, there is a few things that's interesting about it. So downstairs, the furnace that's in the basement had to have been brought in before the house was built, because there's no way that that would have went down the stairs. And so when you walk in, because they got it, we have a new furnace now, so there's like pieces of metal that are kind of around the basement. And from this other furnace that they had to take apart, you know, down in the basement, can't get the people are like, we don't know how this came down here, because we have no way of getting this out of your basement. So here it is. So there's
Wouldn't even have fit in the tunnels.
Yeah, no, like there's just no way.
They set that down, then built the house around it.
And I think Gillian knows about the tunnels just because she's heard us all talk about it. Like it's a party trick. Everybody who comes over to my house wants to see the tunnels, and we bring them downstairs and show them the tunnel, and it's really cool. Bill said when he found the tunnels that there was a lot of really cool like antiques and stuff that were in there. And when he found it, the lady who had been living there before him was actually a school teacher. Her name's Mary, and I can't remember what her last name is, but she was a school teacher in Cadillac for years and years and years. And she had the walls of the basement covered in like posters and like advertisements and stuff. And so he had taken some of that down, and that's when he found the tunnel. So it was like filled with like just a bunch of really, really cool things. He said anytime that he did anything in the house, he found stuff behind the walls and under the floors and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
But so there's this room downstairs that I think used to be the coal chute room. And when you walk in, there's like a door that it's a wood door, and it has like a wood lock handle. And next to it is, you can see carvings, like someone took like a pocket knife or something and carved stuff in it. And there's like some words and stuff. And there's actually a picture of a man with a top hat. And
Carved in that?
Yeah,
wall?
carved in it. And,
Those stairs are formidable. I have not been down there except once.
Oh, really?
I've not been
Oh,
down
I
there
didn't
since
know
that
that.
first time I went down.
Well, and then next to it has a little like steel cross, and it's this like steel cross, and it's on a nail that's like right above this latch, and it was upside down.
Oh.
Like that. And I was like, we are leaving that there. We are not going to mess with that.
Upside down cross?
An
Nadia?
upside down cross. When I looked it up, I think Era and I actually are the ones that
It's a
looked it up.
protection.
It's a protection to keep whatever's in there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, we're not messing.
It's not Satanism.
No.
I mean, there are
it's a
uses. Yeah, there are, well, multiple cultures, but there are uses of an upside down cross in satanic ritual
Yeah.
and things, but most
This
of the
was
time when you find that, it's not that. So don't let it freak you out if you ever find something like that.
Well, when we moved back in, and then I went downstairs, that cross had been moved, and I was like,
Ruh-roh.
all right, we're gonna go ahead and light some sage down here and take care of some business
Put your own
for a
protection
minute.
there. Somebody else put a protection there for a while, and when you have tunnels, tunnels are tunnels can be invitations to other things,
Yeah.
pathways, portals, for things that don't normally dwell in your home. And so if you have a place, if you buy a home that has like tunnels, you're going to want
And it's
to
scary to
energetically
cross.
seal that tunnel.
That's the room where Gillian about a month ago started talking to me about it, and she told me that that room needed to stay shut, and she had a dream about it, and I was like, I don't know that Gillian knows anything about that room. Like, we try not to. I mean, my kids are aware that we live in a haunted house, but they don't.
I don't know that Gillian has heard anything about that room.
Correct.
But you can bet that she knows about that room.
Right. We don't talk about it, like these kind of stories, like necessarily in front of the kids, although they live in a haunted house, so they're all very aware of it. So I don't think she's heard the story, so she obviously had a dream. She saw something. But she told me, she said she had woke up and she came in and she was cuddling with me and she said, Mama, the tunnel room downstairs? And I said, yeah. And she said, that room is safe. And I said, yeah, that's a safe room. And she said, yeah, the other room is not safe. And we need to keep that door shut. And I was like,
believe that child.
okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep that door shut.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's definitely had those dreams.
So I want to be sure to say that we're talking about Gillian. She's the youngest, and I know she's also inherited a lot of Jerrilyn's gifts. but her 3 boys are also there, and they can also, they've also had this space open. Now maybe when they moved to the other house for a while, closed it off, but I don't think so. So I'm imagining all those children, if they are open to it, because we can deny. I mean, we can all be Cleopatra, or King Tut, the king or queen of denial, when it serves us. But I'm thinking all of them are awake to this. But Gilly is awake to it and talks about it. The boys talked about the scary man or things they didn't like, but she is really, really super sensitive to this stuff. So in her room, after that door was held shut, Stephanie and I got a text, I believe, from Jerrilyn, help. Something's going on, and I think we came the next day.
Yeah.
It's like calling the spook squad, you know, but
all 3 of us, like the energy between the 3 of us
is not, it's
we're the female Ghostbusters.
yeah, and it isn't even that. It's that we have this symbiotic, this connection, and each of us brings a different thing to it. But when we focus our energy, the 3 of us, on anything, it gets done. So tell about that lovely evening that we went there. It was great. I mean, hi Stephanie, I hope you're listening. If not tonight, you'll be listening later. But I'm going to have you on as a guest one of these days, because you got some stories. So tell.
Yeah, so
it's 11 o'clock. We gotta shorten this up. Just tell about what. Tell us.
So when they came over, I knew that I had already been doing some stuff. I had already been putting protection bubbles up, trying to teach Gillian how to, we call it push out her love bubble, so that she just pushes that positive energy out and around to try to put up some protection. But I knew that I needed T.I. and Stephanie with me as well, so we could have that combined energy. And so they got there, and I don't remember if we had the kids there or not.
Nope. They were down. They were not with us upstairs.
They were downstairs.
But Gilly came up afterwards.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we saged the whole house.
And it was not the ghosts in the house that were in that room. It was, none of them were terrorizing Gilly. This was some kind of energy that was recognizing her and coming in from someplace. And I think that low window, that one window, I felt like there was something that was like moving down the street and like, oh, that little girl, boom. You know, I had stuff like that happen to me. That may have been just my projection. And the ceiling.
Ceiling.
Yeah. So we
went in and we cleaned and cleansed and sealed the whole house. We did a mixture of we had, what did we have in there? We had lemongrass, hyssop.
We had hyssop, sage, cedar, and sweetgrass.
Yeah, sweetgrass, that's what it was.
Before the what is it? It's I don't know what it's called. There's a Native American name for it. Anyway.
So I took that around and sealed entrances, while Stephanie tried to clear the energy, and I think you were sealing and protecting behind us, right?
Yep.
So I would walk in the room and I would see, recognize, seal, and then Stephanie would move the energy out, and then T.I. would go behind and seal it all shut
behind us.
And
we moved furniture.
Yeah, we
did. Moved lights and furniture and changed the energy flow, and then blocked those places where things would come in and recognize her.
We sealed the whole basement off. Actually,
Yeah,
we didn't go down it. We just
you could do it like, boom,
you're done.
Yeah, it's closed. It's closed because that room when she was dreaming of that room and keep that door closed, there were things. Yeah, so we just, boom, we put like a freaking psychic anvil on top of that space, and don't mess with our babies. Tell you what.
Well, and then we went upstairs. Gillian's room, we moved around a lot. Like, we moved her bed from one. Stephanie walked in and instantly was like, nope, we got to move it. So we all moved the room around and moved her bed from in front of the window to over in front of the door, which is nice because then when Gillian lays down, the door that you go in is right here, like next to the bed, and then she can see both windows and the entire room when she lays down.
And the bed is not, the energy from the window doesn't pass over the bed at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's just, when you set up your space, think about that. Think about if there is a wind that blows from a window to a door, and you're lying in between it, and there's something sharp on that wind, it's going to hit you.
Mirrors
and
mirrors
we put
in
up
this
crystals.
house
We also put up crystals to deflect the energy.
Some houses, it's like that I've lived in, it's like you can put a mirror somewhere and it kind of feels funky, but it's not like a big deal. In this house, if a mirror's in the wrong spot, it's like
you know immediately, right?
I think it was probably last year, I didn't have any full length mirrors in my house anywhere, and I was like, okay, I need to do something so I have something to get ready. And I had bought this like cheap mirror from Walmart that's like, one of those big long mirrors or whatever, and you can get the metal hooks and hang it over the door. And so I had it on the back of my bathroom door, and this bathroom is the one that's at the very end. It's the one. The room actually used to be John's office. And then I believe when Bill moved in, I think he made it into a second bathroom. So there's a bathroom here, and then there's a bathroom right here, which is the clawfoot one. But so at the end of that hallway, my sister and I were actually getting ready to go out. And she's like, I'm moving this mirror. And so she took the mirror and she put it on the other side of the door so that the door could be open, but it was like right there. And so,
so now when you close the door, it's in the hall?
It's in the hallway.
Oh, not a good
And
move.
so I didn't realize it at the time. And I had gotten home from something. It was kind of late at night, and I was walking up the stairs, and when I got to the top of the stairs, it was like this. I don't even know. It was like this energy that just was like down the hallway, and it's making my hair stand up on my arms right now. Every hair in my entire body stood up, and I was like, what the? And I looked down, and I saw that mirror like coming towards the hallway, and I'm like, nope, this is not going to happen. So I actually went and opened the door and moved the mirror.
Put it back behind. Yeah, so when you open the door, when you close the door, it's in the room. When you open the door, it's against the wall.
Yeah.
So being mindful and aware when you live in a house of spirits makes it possible for you to live in a house of spirits. There are a lot of people that would have these things happen and call in, God knows who, those ghost adventurer people to get out and force spirits out. But here's a home that the spirits who live there, who reside there, I can't say live, the spirits who reside there have protected this home and are protecting the people in it. So if at any time it would become dangerous to the living, then we know how to exorcise those spirits to send them packing. But why not, allow, it's like living with your grandpa, it's if you can get over that freak out that this is someone that's no longer living, but was once a human, was once a person like you and I, and cares about you and cares about your family and cares about the home.
I feel like being in this house, instead of it being me living in this house or I own this house, I feel like I'm part of the house's history.
Oh, that's so good.
Because there's been, John and his wife lived their entirety of their lives in this house. Ella, in that time, which is crazy, in the early 1900s, the deed was actually in her name, which is crazy. And she lived her entire life there and died. And then Mary, when she bought the house, she had it as a boarding house for teachers, and she lived her entire life there. So I feel like I am just a passenger, an extra
Yeah, a
person.
part of history, passing through. And you know what? That's the attitude that all of us should have, not just for our homes, but for the planet. It doesn't belong to us when we're there. We are now living on and in these places, along with everybody else who does.
My
And
sister thinks I'm crazy for this, but one of the most devastating things that happened in the house while I was gone and when I moved back was that when you walked down the stairs, the railing had stains on the stairs of where everybody who's ever lived in the house
would
would
move
move their hand up or down the stairs. And it was one of my favorite things about the entire house. I loved it because I knew that every single person who had lived there had placed their hands in that spot
and left their mark.
Yep, I love that.
I love that too. And that's if we all live our lives like that, realizing that we don't own what we assume we own, that we're just here now, and there are those who are here with us. So I'll bet a lot of you have spirits in your homes. I'll bet a lot of you maybe don't even see them, or maybe do, or sense them. Every once in a while you get a flash of feeling like someone's watching you or someone's behind you. Just acknowledge it. We share this world. We share this space with beings that are not all carbon-based, or once were. So be kind to the world, to yourselves, to everybody. And yeah, so maybe next week we'll be at 9:00 Eastern time. I'll look at what people say. You can always watch it later if you want, but have a lovely evening, a lovely week, and thanks, Jerrilyn. I really enjoyed your stories tonight. This was great. I love having guests. Okay. Have a good night, folks. Peace out. Bye.